So hello and welcome. Allard the Duck from First Wave on Sirius XM. My special guest for the 80s cruise is our good friend Andy Bell. Andy, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you so much, Larry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you and Steven.
Thank
And
you.
all the best in 2025. I know this would be a good year for you this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year. We've been preparing all during 2024, so it's been a bit tumultuous for everybody, but 2025 is the silver lining.
Well, I found out that I'm the person that'll be interviewing you on the cruise for the 80s cruise.
Okay.
And the last time I did this, we had like 1,500 people, sitting out in the audience. But the one thing I do want to do, since you just mentioned 2024, is you had a milestone birthday last year.
Oh yeah, I had it was my 60th last year, so I'm a dragon, wood dragon. So
No, and actually, you don't look it. You look
well,
younger. You look like you're 42 or something like that. You know that?
well, that's very kind. I mean, I'm done a few tricks of the trade, but no, we had a great time. Stephen's amazing. He's a nightclub owner and he's fantastic at kind of organizing these huge groups of people. And we hired a hotel, put all our friends up in Mallorca, and had a 3-day dinner. It was a fantastic celebration.
So you took one day and squeezed it into three, is really what you did, right?
Yeah, we had like people staying over for 2 nights, but not in the house, like in a hotel nearby, and had a lovely meal. And it was kind of the weather wasn't so great; it was raining the whole time, so we moved the whole thing inside, but it worked out really well.
So as we speak, you're in Atlanta now, but you do live in Miami Beach, correct?
Yeah, we were there. We've been in Miami. I mean, Steve was there. He was living there already, and I always had this feeling from the mid 80s, like '86, that I would end up being there somehow. I don't know. I don't know why. And then I met Steve. We met in Tampa, and then he had a studio apartment in Miami, and then the apartment that we bought was right in the block next door to his studio apartment. So my feeling was right, in the '80s. Yeah, I love the ambience there, and it's kind of very close to South America, which I really enjoy.
Well, they say Miami is the gateway to South America, so and
Yeah,
Latin America too, which is great. Now, because you live in Miami, are you going to go back to Miami before the 80s cruise? Because the ship does leave from Miami.
we're going there on Monday. This Monday, we've got some. I've got a couple of video shoots coming up and photo shoots and stuff for some stuff coming up, and yeah, and then we interestingly we had Vince over this week in
Oh, how's
in
he doing?
Atlanta for future Erasure writing, and then I'm going to go and see him again after we go Miami, Atlanta, LA, San Diego, Atlanta, London, and then
That's great.
then we come back to Miami for the cruise. Yeah.
That's great. So, have you ever done this before? An 80s cruise or a
I
cruise?
haven't. No, I've done lots of Atlantis cruises, which are really fun. You can imagine. But I assume I did it. I did a UK '80s cruise, which was really good, and I'm looking forward to. I know Carol from Tapao, and we love Tiffany, so I'm kind of. I'm sure we'll get to hang out somewhere on the boat.
Well, you're on for the full 8 days, which is great.
Yeah,
And also, I mean, you got Squeeze, you got Men at Work, you got
yeah,
Sheila E., Musical Youth, you got Information Site. Pete from Naked Eyes is now on the boat too.
yeah,
Christopher Cross and Adam Ant. So I think, I'm going to be hanging out with you a lot, you and Steven. So we'll have a blast. Um, the one thing I do want to ask you though, you mentioned 1986. I want to throw a date out at you and see if you remember
yeah.
this. June
Okay,
24th, 1987.
right.
Erasure opened for Duran Duran at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, it was kind of it was an eye opener for me anyway, because we were just Erasure kind of always did just what they wanted to do, and I think at that time I was wearing some kind of, it wasn't a ballet tutu. People think it was, but it was basically just a hoop with a piece of stretch material, and I just remember the kind of Duran Duran fans, which were all young girls, went wild, and they were screaming when we came on. And I think we gained a lot of fans by doing that tour. I was very grateful for that tour. And we did have Simon's Yasmin asking if she could have a pee in our caravan because it was the closest to the stage. So we said, sure, come on in. But
The reason I mention that,
yeah.
Andy, is that I hosted that show
Oh
when I was at
wow.
WLIR. I went out on stage. It's the only time in my life I've ever gone on stage at
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, but it's just like the goosebumps. You go onto that great stage, the Mecca, and you just
Yes.
see the people around you. I mean, it was sold out, and it's just
Yeah.
the feeling of that rush
It
of
is.
that particular crowd in New York City.
Oh, it is scary. I mean, we played Madison Square Gardens a few times, and I do. I must admit, I do love playing in theatres because of the history and stuff like that. But when you're in somewhere like Madison Square Gardens, I'm very glad that lighting wise, you could only see kind of the first 20 rows or so,
Yes.
because if I saw all the people, it would be too much. It's like when you play those huge places, you have to kind of make yourself larger than life. And I don't know. I kind of like one on one. With I like the interaction with the audience, and I'm not so much into the rock and roll posturing kind of thing. I love being a bit crazy instead.
Well, you've always been yourself, Andy. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're
A
not
bit,
someone you're not. And that's what everybody has always said about it. The great thing is your voice, the way you portray yourself,
well,
and the way you present yourself on stage. And then if you go to a smaller venue, the first time I mentioned to Steven, the first time I met Steven was backstage at Irving Plaza. I hosted you in one of your solo tours.
wow.
And if you
Yeah.
remember, you said to me, "Hey, Larry, look, Vince is in the audience.
Oh
You got
yeah.
to give him a shout out." And I
Yeah.
gave him that shout out
Yeah.
because you told me to do that. And the
Oh,
thing is, I went to the bar after I
yeah.
did your introduction and we're watching you perform. And I said, "I'm sorry I blew your cover." He goes, "No, no, no. Andy put you up to that, didn't he?" I said, "Yeah." And I bought him a beer and we took a photo and I put it on the SiriusXM homepage.
See, he always knows everything. Vince knows everything. He's been in the industry since he was 17 years old, and he's seen everything, done everything. So not much gets past him. And I have to say it's been so much fun seeing him this week because as you know, or may not, he's had a traumatic
Yeah.
last year, and I'm glad to see that he's finally kind of, it takes a long time. Grief, it takes a long time, and but I think through our writing and being together with Erasure, it's going to help.
Time heals and so does music. Music heals. But I know it was exactly a year ago at this time that he lost Tracy
Yeah,
to cancer.
yeah,
And for those people that don't know, Tracy Hurley died of cancer, a 2-year battle, I guess, right, Andy? She was
yes,
53.
yeah,
She was also the publicist for Depeche Mode, for Prince, for The Cure, for
yes,
George
yeah,
Michael.
yeah.
And I know that the anniversary is coming up, so I know it must be very hard for Vince. And I wanted to ask you, is that really the reason why the Neon World Tour got postponed because of her illness?
It partly was that, but also we contracted COVID. The band,
Oh, yes,
in the
COVID.
UK, fortunately, it was like the same time as our last UK show. So, but we had to cancel the North American leg, which was a shame. But there's plenty more time. There's plenty more time for us.
It's funny with COVID. The first time I did the 80s cruise was actually we were the last ship back because people remember
Oh,
the actual date is March 16th, 2020.
goodness. Yeah.
That's the actual date. So
Yeah.
that's right. So it would coincide with why the Neon World Tour was actually postponed at that point.
Yeah. I think it was either October or November in the previous 2019. Yeah.
But that was going to be a huge world tour for you.
It was, yeah. I mean, the neon was like doing so well, and it was kind of a renaissance for us. We'd found this pop sensibility. It's kind of, it was our 19th album, so we've been through troughs and peaks.
Wow.
And so hopefully, fingers crossed, the 20th will be, um, a fan pleaser. I hope anyway.
Well, look, I'm thrilled that you're back with Vince again and you're starting to write again. And I know
Yeah.
that Vince put out his first solo album too, a number of
Yeah.
months ago, and he also bought a record store in Park Slope.
Oh yeah, he's crazy. He's a crazy guy. You know, we're kind of following in his footsteps, Stephen and I. So we Stephen created our own label to put out a, a new solo project that I've been working on for a while. So we're fingers crossed. You know, that's for next year. But you know, it doesn't mean Erasure is always a going concern for us.
I was born in Brooklyn, so I live in Long Island. As you know, you remember us from WLIR in New
Yeah,
York. And
yeah.
it would be cool, whenever the new music comes out, to do remember those days you do those record store promotions where you'd be in the record
Yeah,
store and you'd sign the vinyl and stuff like that?
yeah, I do know those. Yeah, it's kind of Vince finds it all a bit embarrassing, that kind of stuff, and I've kind of learned how to say no through him, but I'm much more persuadable than he is. So,
Yeah, but the flip side,
uh,
he's the owner of the record store. You could do it there in Brooklyn,
oh,
right?
yeah, I could do it at his store. Yeah,
That's
you're
what I'm
right.
saying. Yeah, do it at
Yeah,
his
yeah,
store.
yeah.
I do want to ask you, I know that you and Alison Moyet have been the best of friends for many, many years.
Well, I was we know each other, and I have the utmost respect for her. And I'm a huge Yaz fan, so that's kind of how I got my break, I think, with Vince, because I'd kind of sang along to his records, and so in the beginning, people would always compare Alison and myself, and I felt like, well, my voice wasn't big enough to be her, and then found my own identity after a while. But we've hung out, and I've been to her shows, and Vince was saying that she feels quite insecure going on stage, which I cannot believe with a presence like hers, and a voice like hers. But just goes to show you, we're all human. Everyone's human, and we all have our own foibles and stuff.
That's true. And I
Yeah.
have to say though, when I've interviewed Alison, she's always spoken very highly of you. And
Oh,
I know she's doing a world tour. I know starting in
yes.
February in Ireland.
Yeah.
And the thing is, were you the one that pushed Vince and Allison to do the Yaz reunion tour
Not
for their 25th?
Not at all. No,
No, okay.
I'm not sure if that was a mute thing, but I mean, I'm always, Alison's very eloquent when she talks, and she's half French, and I love her lyrics, her tunes. So I think this solo tours. I mean, she is solo anyway, but I think it's going to be really great for her.
Yeah, it's her 10th studio album. I do want to ask
Yeah,
you though, if I go back to your first solo album, which was called Electric Blue in
yeah.
2005, you worked with one of my favorite female vocalists, Claudia Brucken
Oh
of
yeah,
Propaganda.
yeah,
So you've had this history with other artists over the years, and that voice in particular, like I
yes,
remember Duel and some of the songs that
yeah.
Propaganda put out was just amazing.
Again, yeah, I mean, we do, I kind of pop in and out with working with other people, and we got some amazing collaborations coming up on the new record. But yeah, Claudia, she's kind of quite mind blowing, really, because English is not her native language; she's German, and her, the words that she uses and the subjects that she sings about is, I mean, it's not something that I would do, because I don't have the same sort of grip as she has on the language somehow. I'm not sure how maybe it's because of the translation from German to English, but I don't know. I mean, I can speak German, but I just don't know how they do it when foreigners write in English.
So wait, you speak German?
I do, yeah.
I didn't know. How many languages do you speak?
Well, I speak German, French, and only a smattering of Spanish.
Well, Ola Moore made sense for French.
Oh yeah, that was a funny, that was Vince had already written the song. I wrote the intro for the song, and I said, "Oh, let's call it Ola Moore." And he said, "Okay, you can have 50%." And I was like, "What?"
So, can you tease what you're up to now with Vince, or tease what's to come? Something just without saying specific.
Yeah, I mean, we have got an EP coming out for Erasure, which is in September, which is called uh, Action Reaction. So
Action reaction.
yeah, it's a re-release of Heavenly Action. It's like a 4-track EP, which is to celebrate not Erasure's first release, but our coming together in 1985. when we first met. But Vince and I are basically getting ready for the 2026, which will be the official 40th anniversary of Erasure. So hopefully we'll have a brand new record by then. So
do you think a 40th anniversary tour would happen in 2026?
I think towards the end of 2026.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Cool. So look, on the 80s cruise, Andy, you
yeah,
have friends. There are five of us that host, and you know Mark Goodman, you know
yeah,
Alan Hunter, you know Downtown Julie Brown, Lori Majewski, and
yeah,
myself. We're the five hosts. So we're
yeah.
gonna have a blast on the 80s cruise, and we're gonna be hanging out for 8 days. You and Steven. Happy belated birthday for your 60th. And again, you don't look 60 at all. I'm
Thank
sure
you
you
very
don't
much.
act it either, because I
Well,
don't.
no, I don't act 60 either. I'm more like 17. I don't know.
Yeah. And I do want to wish you and Stephen a very happy new year in this holiday season. All
Oh,
the best to a better 2025.
Larry, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you on in Puerto Rico or on the ship anyway.
And maybe we'll come to your house in Miami Beach before we sail.
Yeah, yeah. Once it's built, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank
Happy
you,
New Year.
sir.
Thank you for being here on the
Thank
80s
you.
Cruise.